The Hydra clan clash is coming up pretty soon. I have a guest on the channel. Who is it? We'll see in a second.
Hey guys, it's me, Hell Hades.
Welcome, I'm the DeadwoodJedi. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. Like I said, I have a mystery guest here with me. Who is it? None other than Nub. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Good, it's good. Everyone just disappointed. We're like, oh, get off the video. Goodbye.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? My engagement just spiked right now. That's what happened. People that weren't watching the video all of a sudden felt like, oh, I need to click it now. I don't know why. They're all watching.
They're like, the long hair we thought was Scarlett Johansson. We were excited, Deadwood.
Oh, shoot. You just got me excited for a second. Now I'm disappointed. That wasn't supposed to happen. Hey, anyway, guys, I just want to let you know, we might be having some connection issues. So if there's any, if Nub starts, glitching out, freezing, like just right there. It's just what's going to happen. But you should still be able to hear him. So hopefully, you'll get all the information. But we wanted to talk. The reason why I asked you to come on is actually we have the Hydra clan boss competition. I don't know what the heck they call it, but that is coming up. And I've been kind of out of the loop for with my vacation and then my vacation after the vacation. Me just not being present so much. I'm a little bit out of the loop on what it's going to mean, what's coming up. And so I wanted to bring you on, and I figure I'm not the only one, but I figured you can give us some advice on, or at least some info on what it is, how it's supposed to work, and then maybe some advice on how to prepare our teams for that, things we should be looking for. And then maybe if we still have time, we'll do some just general Hydra tips. I also kind of want to show off my team a little bit because, you talked me and improved my team a few months back. And so I've made some serious progress, I would say. But yeah, maybe you can start off and just kind of give us an idea of what this whole event is supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Feel free to stop me as well, because my internet is a bit choppy, it seems. So if I cut out and you need me to repeat something, let me know.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, so it starts this week. And I think for the first week, it's only the top maybe 3,000 clans are going to be participating. So not everyone might get in. And then we should hopefully find out the proper schedule after that.
So we had a little technical difficulties. We're back. Nub, cover the rules for us. We already ran into some internet issues. So let's go ahead, cover the rules. I know it's like 3,000 clans in the initial phase until they get it, working the way they want to, and then we're gonna kind of go from there. But what do we know so far right now about this?
Yeah, so far, which is obviously subject to change as well, based off of how that first week, which is this week, how that goes. So far, one of the big things is the point multipliers. So it will take the damage that you do, but depending on the difficulty that you do for Hydra, it's going to multiply it. So it's a one-time multiplier, just whatever you scored on normal. But on hard, it's a 2 times multiplier, which is actually quite potent. On brutal, 3 times, and on nightmare, 4 times. So initial impressions for me, honestly, I would say, for example, I think that brutal and nightmare are probably harder than those multipliers give it credit for. So this could actually mean for some people, if they don't change it, potentially for a lot of people, that normal and hard become your best bets for winning the Hydra clash, as opposed to obviously normally want to do the highest difficulties to get the best gear possible from your weekly key. So that's straight up, that is one really big question mark for this week. Our clan's going to be going in and just doing normal, hard, and maybe brutal as well. Normal, hard, and brutal. Or are they going to be going into to nightmare? Maybe they are going to run 3 keys on normal. I don't know. I think that's possible. So
that'd be very interesting. Well, obviously that is a huge thing. I mean, we've seen those screenshots going around of doing 2 billion damage on normal, on hard. I don't know quite if that's what people are doing on brutal or not, but those are, this is also to be fair, this is very much whale focus, end game focus kind of, true end game players and teams. So this is probably impacting, I would imagine 100 clans at the most, realistically. So it's probably not a big thing that most people have to worry about, but obviously that is a big factor. So like, how do we want to determine, I mean, is it just as simple as what am I doing 2 times versus, 1 times as far as which difficulty am I going to do damage wise?
I think it's going to also depend a bit on the champions that you have. So, I mean, the 2 big champions that are unlocking the sort of exploit, as it were, at the moment, if you want to call it, I don't know if it's an exploit or just it's the way the game works, but Trunda is the first one, the big one, and that's much easier to do. So if you have a Trunda, I sadly don't. I know you do. I saw it when you were setting up the record. You've got 2? Okay.
I've got 2.
But
I haven't figured out how to actually use them yet for this, but I do have 2, so I'm tempted to try.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So that's definitely the big way to go crazy, because her A2, the way it cleaves across decapitated heads is just absolutely nuts. And it all multiplies over itself on the damage bonuses multiple times and does nutty numbers. So she's on a totally different level. There's another one, which I've tried a bit as well myself, which is with Corpulent Cadaver. I'm sure you're well familiar with that idea of the Infinity Comp in Clan Boss. He is a rare champion that does bonus damage based off the size of his shield. So you can actually, again, on the lower difficulties where they don't hit as hard and they're slower, you can build up a really powerful shield with Brogni, making it bigger and stronger. Because he hits an AoE with his A2. You can cleave across, especially decapitated heads, and the shield grows absolutely huge. Then this guy starts hitting really hard single target. And yes, that's another way. That I've tried it is much more difficult to set up. And you can have things like, if he gets targeted as a to be devoured, that's going to mess it up. If he ever gets devoured, he comes back and the shield's gone.
Not to mention also, buff stealing, right? That would definitely mess that one up. Ooh, I can see that.
Yeah, definitely. So, but they're 2 of like the crazy ones that could really make your lower difficulty runs explode and do so much more than you could ever possibly do with like a normal team comp, shall we say. That can be I mean, we saw what Scratch was able to do on Brutal Hydra and the Hydra Clash, and I think most of us didn't even realize that was possible, but Scratch was like, yeah, no, it totally is possible. Here it is on Brutal. Boom. 2 billion, not quite, but still doing crazy numbers there. But it gets so much stronger when you go into hard and normal. Really exponential.
No, I can see that. I mean, if you're doing 200 million on Brutal, it doesn't make sense to try to do 50 million on Nightmare when the multipliers don't really make that change make any sense. So that's going to be really interesting. And that definitely seems like a bit of an exploit, but that does really just affect the higher end players. I feel like it's not it's not going to affect too many people, maybe 5% of the population. So what for the rest of us, I include myself in this, I probably shouldn't, but for the rest of us, what does what is going to be like kind of our best strategies going forward? Like, should we be aiming for, if I should I be aiming for doing, just do hard, do the lower level difficulties and do as much as I can? Or should I just continue to try to get my best keys forward? Does this, because the rewards from Hydra, the normal rewards, the weekly rewards, which are very valuable, not just in the gear sets, but in the souls as well. The soul stones, like, should we still be just approach it the same way we have been, or should we be making some changes?
So I think that probably for most people, and probably how they will change it, I assume, going forwards, is they'll want people to be doing the highest keys possible. Is most likely going to be the goal. I believe on your second run of a key, it turns off the multiplier. So it would be like, do your highest 3 difficulties. You wouldn't be like, 3 keys into Nightmare. I don't think that's something. Okay. So I think realistically, it's going to be the way it has been, which is I want to put my 3 keys into the 3 highest difficulties I can. That's what most people will likely keep doing. But it's probably going to be a thing now where instead of before looking for, I want a 1 key, you're now going to be going, okay, I want a 1 key, obviously, but I want to do as much damage as possible, which is a different thing entirely. I guess one big question to ask yourself straight away, I probably know the answer for most people, is, am I willing to manual this to get more damage for the Hydra Clash? Because that is going to change the types of teams that you build as well.
No, absolutely.
And the champions you use.
I mean, is this something that's supposed to be every week, or is it going to be like CVC every other week, or do we know that yet?
I don't think I've heard officially. I did see someone saying a rumor that it might be, maybe it was that officially and I missed it. That's very possible too. I think it's going to be alternating with CVC. Yeah. So I think it's going to be like CVC one week and then Hydra Clash the next. But I don't know. Maybe it's every week. I actually am not 100% sure. Yeah. So we'll find out soon enough, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
but yeah, it's.
Go on. Sorry.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, if it is every week, manualing those keys, trying to get the max damage out, that gets fairly exhausting. So I suspect a lot of people are just going to be like, okay, I want the best auto key that will work most of the time. I can rerun it once or twice, but that's it. I just want to do it and move on with the week,
Yeah. Yep. I hear that.
That's what people will do. So
that makes a lot of sense, especially if if the difference between manualing and autoing is 20 million, 30 million. I don't know that that's necessarily going to incentivize people to really get in there and do a full manual run, right?
Right.
That does make a lot of sense. Do we have an idea of what the rewards are for this yet? Or
well,
that's still
the
kind of
bigger rewards are, of course, that you're going to be able to get protection and stone skin accessories. So rings, necklaces, banners that are from those sets, which will let you, for example, put a damage dealer in 4-piece savage gear, throw them in 2 or 3 accessories in stone skin, and then 1 or 2 other pieces of gear in stone skin, and bam, you've got a savage stone skin nuker that's protected on that round 1.
That's gonna be massive. That's gonna be massive.
Yeah, that's yeah, right. Or like protection set at 9 pieces, you get the full thing. It starts giving you 5% more damage per buff. So with champions like Sifi or Duchess that are putting out lots of buffs, Mitrala, that suddenly becomes a really big damage increase, not only for Hydra, but for Arena, for everywhere in the game. So that's kind of massive. So I think people are definitely going to want this, and it's going to be tough, right? Because you got to get those accessories in the right faction for the champions that you have. You got to get them to roll up pretty well.
That's a really good point. I always forget about that. Is the faction as well? That's going to be a huge.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be annoying. That means we're going to have to do this for a long time to get what we want.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get that 9-piece set on Sifi. It's like, ooh, that's pretty juicy. And you got to get some speed rolls as well on the banner. Or maybe you did. Yeah, you got to have the banner for the 9-piece. So
yeah, you really do.
Good luck.
That's pretty massive. Well, also in getting the speed percentage boost from that, the 8th piece or the 9th piece or whatever. That's actually a pretty big addition as well. That's that's formidable, I would say, and rather impressive. So okay, great. So we definitely have reasons to do this. Stone Skin and lethal, or Stone Skin and Savage, Stone Skin lethal, the nasty combo. I'm definitely down for that. Well, okay. So I know a lot of people, like in the cluster I'm in. There's a lot of maybe I should shout them out. I'm in the oh God, what's it called? I forget where I am. I'm in the Virtue. Best shout out ever. I'm in the Virtue Clan cluster, and I just moved to a different clan within that. But I know there's a lot of people that are like, "Hey, I need to rebuild my team. This thing's coming out. Yeah. I have to make my team better." So I thought maybe we could talk about some of the ways that we can people that have been doing it can look to improve their teams. At least in the short term. I don't know if you have any, focused advice on that, or I can refine my question further if you need it.
Oh, well, I can tell you right now, something that has changed very recently in terms of Hydra's history is the cursed set, right? That is going to be absolutely massive. I don't know if you have any. You were saying you were farming a load of Ice Golem earlier. Maybe you got lucky, got a couple of good pieces.
I did not get lucky, but yes, I do have some of that cursed set, and not nearly enough, but yeah, it's really impactful. I agree with that. Trying to find the one champion I have with it on. There we go. I do a dance.
There. Oh, nice. Okay, I like it. Yeah. MTG Jedi would be proud of that one. There you go. But yeah, so the curse set, as you can see, is a 4-piece set. 50% chance to place Hex for 2 turns. Hex on Hydra is just really powerful. Number 1, it gives you a lot of damage. So like if you single target attack a decapitated head, it's getting bonus damage. And then you're duplicating 10% of that to everything with Hex. It is small, but it adds up. I mean, you guys, if you watch the Hydra Clash on Deadwood streams, you saw my Mithrala. and she was doing tons of damage. A lot of that is from Hex and just duplicating portions of War Master and all of that across. It really adds up. So Hex gives you a lot of damage and also lets you target the Head of Mischief too, which is, again, very helpful. So I suspect even on auto, like oftentimes your champions will target Head of Mischief quite a lot with Hex on because it's quite squishy. So that can work to your benefit on auto big time as well. Actually break people free of Mischief instead of redirecting them all over the place. So yeah, getting that and getting Hex into a Hydra Clash team, I think is going to probably be fairly important to get the max damage out. And unless you've got top tier Hex champions like Mithrala, Michinaki, and multiple copies, having some curse sets to throw in there can make a very big difference.
I mean, if you have champions with AoE attacks, curse set is honestly better than bringing in a champ that is Hex, because now you're not sacrificing other skills for that, and you're still being able to get that debuff out there. And you're right, it has a huge impact on the damage that you're doing. I think that was my mistake when I was trying to test a Trunda. I didn't bring Hex in, and obviously that's key to making that work, right? So it's
not key, but you could certainly add it in. The Trunda thing is like Arbiter, Lydia, some Trundas, and some resets, and just blow them up. But you could put like Hex set on a Lydia, for example, and bam, then you've got some AoE hexes. I think they typically bring in 2 Yumikos who can do single target hex, and they probably get a good chunk of damage out of that.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
But you have 2 Yumikos?
I do, actually. I do.
Okay.
I totally could make this team if I wanted to. I just haven't honestly, my gear level is just a little bit too low.
So. It is a sort of thing where it snowballs, doesn't it? Right? It's just the more gear you have, it's like an exponential effect of just overpowering it.
I have so much gear, and I feel like almost full, almost full, and then like even equipped like doubles, triples, triple it, and I just don't know what to do with it all. And yet it's still not enough, still not high enough level. So I'm constantly refining it. But so I can see Hex being obviously really, really important. Is there any other gear sets that are something we should look at? I can share an example for me. I actually put my Stiffy in curing, and boy, has that made a huge difference. Because she does that consistent healing, and the curing basically takes away that max HP reduction from the head of depression decay, is what I want to call it. Head of decay. Yes. There you go. I feel like head of depression is more accurate. But it completely takes that away. If she's my only healer, with other healers, it can be a little bit problematic, but generally it does a really good job. Is that something that you recommend? Is that something that's kind of like niche scenario, or how are you feeling?
No. That's absolutely. It's a brilliant call out. Yeah, the curing set, again, it was buffed very recently as well, and it's super good. I believe the way it works, it's way more effective than the blessing as well, right? There's the miracle heal blessing.
Doesn't do much effective. At all. No, it doesn't.
Curing is on another level. Yes, that's totally the way to go. Like I was doing a test of the new epic, the Fawn girl, who can restore destroyed max HP with her A1. I'm like, there's no point. I put her in a curing set, and I was like, man, the curing set on her heal does infinitely more than this move that's supposed to restore destroyed max HP ever could. It's silly. But yeah, curing set, really strong. That's a great call out. I'd say there's lots of things that you can bring in, optionally. Of course, I think perception is absolutely huge. Relentless, of course, is oftentimes the best set for a lot of champions, but that's so hard to get. Ice Golem is, unfortunately, it's a dungeon we hate to farm, but I do think Retaliation set, also one that was buffed recently, that's also Ice Golem as well, I believe. So Ice Golem is rocking Retaliation, Reflex, Cursed, very strong dungeon now for improving your Hydra teams. So yeah, all that stuff is going to add up. Live Arena as well, that's another thing. It's a time sink. Like I see your points are decaying there. I know that feeling for Live Arena.
Live Arena. I did it the other day for the first time in literally like 3 months, and I was just like, it's not. At least everything's kind of sifted a little bit, so it wasn't as brutal as when it started. So it was a little bit more enjoyable for me. But yeah, man, it
does give you a lot of bonuses for Hydra, though.
It's rough.
I see you're putting stuff in there. That's probably the way to go. So
the only place to really do it, I feel like. Everything else is
I know a lot of people put stuff into Fire Knight, especially before Newt was a thing. But with Newt being a thing, maybe not quite as important anymore. And you can always just do like stage 6 or stage 2 of Fire Knight Hard, it's not that much of a huge difference if you're not, pushing for super endgame arena. It's like, yeah, a bit less savage gear, but I can survive. But it can make a big difference in those Hydra stats. It does add up to quite a lot and makes your champions just faster, stronger, more productive.
I'm doing really good on Fire Knight Hard. Really good. Yeah.
It's quite, if you got Newt, it's quite easy with him now, so you can get there, no problem.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's one of those things where it's like I just haven't spent the time and the effort to do it, but eventually I know I'll have to. Well, that's great. So those are some. So like as far as sets go, Ice Golem ones seem to be the best ones, right? Where you're talking about provoke, talking about reflex, you're talking about retaliation,
provoke as well. Yeah. Good call.
Curse set. But then obviously, I think curse is in Fire Knight, right? Is that right?
I think it's Ice Golem as well. I think Ice Golem's really stacked. Yeah,
Ice Golem it's now the Hydra dungeon to farm. Yeah, you're right. It is there. Yeah, but it does have a bunch of really good ones. Resistance as well. Obviously the Forge Pass is kind of a big thing now, right? There's some really nice sets in there. Those are all ones I assume that are worth pursuing as we're looking to build our team. And that might be something new for a lot of people, like Defiant, Righteous, Bolster. I don't know if Bolster is something that people really should be farming or not, but
I mean, Bolster's great. It's more of an arena set, I suppose.
Yeah,
like Righteous is kind of a sleeper set, little 2-piece. That's very strong for a lot of champions, even budget champions. So if you could bought one of those Forge Passes, that could be very helpful. Put it on a Mischief tank that needs to go fast. What's his name? One of my favorites, the High Elf guy. Oh, I'm blanking on his name. He's got a big old sword. Let me see. I'll find him and I'll call out his name for you. High Elf. It is Skiramis. How could I forget a name like that?
Skiramis.
He's an epic, but he's a brilliant budget.
Oh, this guy.
You don't have him.
I actually just pulled him. Maybe I don't have him. I don't know.
You thought you did?
Yeah, I thought I pulled him. Apparently I did not.
You dreamt about him. But his A3 is exceptional for, again, just a really accessible budget Mischief tank. He's one that runs pretty fast, right? So Righteous is really good for building that up, get good speed and resistance, and yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. That's a really good call out. Okay, so we're talking about. Oh wait, hold on. Do I have him? No, I have the ambassador. No. I have the other guy.
He's not quite as good.
No, not quite as good. All right, so what about the only other set that we haven't really mentioned? I mean, I like Defiant a lot. I feel like that's a great way to keep my squishier damage dealers surviving. Because it kind of mitigates a lot of damage. The only other set. What about like Guardian set? I've seen those being used to really good effect. Is that something you'd recommend too?
Yeah, definitely. I've run Guardian a bunch as well. Yeah, it can be very helpful. Just slap it on a support champion, and bam, they just help your squishy target stay alive. Like like you said, you're bringing in something like a Royal Guard to Brutal or Nightmare. Like if you got a Krisk, it's not that on Duchess or something. Yeah, it's easy enough to keep him alive. If you got lesser champions, then that 10% damage reduction, it can stack, and that can really add up to make it much more consistent to keep them alive and surviving. Can let you skip out and bring in a reviver, for example, which is pretty big.
That's actually pretty big.
Yeah,
I'm not bold enough to do that, but that's a pretty big maneuver.
Yeah, I mean, some people might not even have the option. You might just not have a particularly good reviver, and you're like, to bring in someone with a revive, I have to give up so much to squeeze them in. It's not quite worth it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Especially with Hydra Clash, you might be like, I need to push max damage. I need the best damage possible. Yes, revivers don't do damage. I need damage.
Actually, that's perfect. That actually leads me to my I think my last question here really for you is when, the biggest difference between this Hydra competition, the Clan Clash versus everything else that we've been doing with Hydra is it's not as much about consistency. It's about getting that final damage out. So as far as building your teams, like, to push the damage number, what is like the approach we should be taking? I know for myself, especially after doing that Hydra tournament that we all had, I realized that I don't need as many support champions as I thought I did. Where previously I'd run basically 4 support and 2 damage dealers, and now I run 3 damage dealers wherever I can with my teams. Like this, my team right here is my team, right? Got Siffy, Risk. Those are my support. That's it. And I have Ugo in there, right? So, my next step would be, can I take Ugo out and bring in another damage dealer or something, something along those lines? try and tweak that even more. How do we go about doing that? Taking those support champs out? Is that something that's only available if you have the OP Frisks and Siffys and Tijuana Rocks, or how do we make that kind of a team better?
Yeah, I would say it's actually extremely champion dependent, and yes, I think that you would be very much relying on OP champions to do it. Honestly, like, you can totally do teams with even just one proper damage dealer. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, on my brutal team, it's very similar to the one I ran in the Hydra clash. I can flick it up on the screen for you here in a sec. Hang on, let me flick it up for you. If I do this, maybe will it come through? Oh, it's going to go wonky. Oh no, what have I done? Oh,
it went weird.
I'm in our Discord call. There you go. Does that work? Can you see it? Okay.
You're super small, but yeah, we can see it now.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. But you can see this right here. You might need to edit that out in case I shared something I shouldn't have. But like, yeah, Mithrala, she's doing some damage with Hex, but like on the live servers, I don't have her built like I had for the Hydra Clash with, proper damage and War Master. It's nearly all Hex. But like, this team is like Turvold is doing it all. And yeah, like Shamail is in a support build with Guardian we talked about. It's really a team that's very much focused on consistency. This was one of its better runs, actually, 133 on Nightmare.
That's your brutal team? Oh, that's your Nightmare
brutal.
team?
That's brutal. Excuse me. That's brutal. Yeah, I haven't done Nightmare this week yet. I'm lazy. I'm a last minute Hydra keyer. But sorry, that was brutal. So it's
that's
just
gross.
Brutal. But
that's nice.
Yeah, the point I just wanted to make was, like, in that team, Turvold is the only proper damage dealer. And then like there's a little bit of incidental damage. So he's kind of an OP damage dealer at the same time, especially for the lower difficulties.
Right.
But yeah, so it can vary. I would still say that probably 2 damage dealers is the most normal composition that you would run for most people. That's probably the way to go. And yeah, because then it gives you flexibility. One gets eaten, you've got the other one to break them out again. That works well. And you need a lot of debuffs and stuff, you need a lot of buffs, a lot of debuffs for Hydra. So support champions bring those typically much more than damage dealers do. But yeah, I mean, that's a whole topic for another video, but yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, I know. I mean, would you say like the biggest thing then, as opposed to like trying to, if you can't substitute in a third damage dealer, would then the biggest thing just be, making sure that you bring in Hex to your team? I mean, it seems to me like that's really the one alternative to go with there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge difference. Like, Hex can literally add millions to a key. It's crazy. So that absolutely makes a difference. And hopefully, if you're taking Hydra Clash seriously, you'll be at the point where you've got Mithrala in the bag. And like, if you don't have her in the bag, like, you're still so early on that I wouldn't be under too much pressure to be performing crazy well in Hydra Clash. It's like, you're still learning at that point, It's okay.
Yep,
but like Mithrala, that's an S tier Hex champion. She could go into your team, and this is something that probably everyone's going to have to do, is rebuild their teams. It's like, I've been, as you saw right there, that was my brutal team. Mithrala was in there. There's a decent chance she'll go up into the Nightmare team now next week, or this week actually. It's coming up soon. Sitting down to actually go through it. So it'll be like rebuilding everything and like, okay, I need my strongest stuff probably for Nightmare, and I'm going to try to do it like the top focused. Might be bad though. We'll see. Well, it might be more cheese focused, but yeah,
I know that was. I know I asked my last question 2 questions ago, but since we're if you don't have Mithrala and you don't have Curse Gear, what are can you name like 2 or 3 good Hex champions that are worth considering to bring into your team? Obviously, every team is its own, right? So you gotta make sure it works. But who are some champions that maybe people should be taking a stronger look at for their teams?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll throw out like 2 good ones. Well, one is legendary. It's Michinaki. He was a Summon Rush champion recently, so people might have him. He's absolutely top tier. He brings decreased defense, decreased attack. He can buff strip as well, which is really nice for that auto friendliness. And he's got burns in his passive. He just does a ton of, yourself for Plan Boss.
He's insane. He's absolutely. Yeah. He's really, really good.
So he's top tier. Then an epic for a more budget one, Thylesia from Knights Revenant. She's actually really nice. She's very squishy, but she does very squishy. She does bring in decreased defense, extending debuffs, and she applies Hex with the passive as well, and some debuff spreading. So she can actually work really well too. She brings you a lot in there. So yeah, she can be a pretty good one, actually. I have seen a couple of people bring in that terrible Demon Spawn Fragment Fuse. You remember him, Vildrax? I saw a couple of keys with him. Like, this champion sucks, but he brings AoE Hex. Really? I saw a couple of people. I don't think it's good. But I've seen a couple of people use him for like the lols, I think. And it's just like, I mean, he does Hex. He's not good, but you know, it's a 3-turn Hex.
Hex and Leech, it's not. That's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I'm surprised someone would do that.
I'm surprised too, but I was like, okay, you know, they got something out of him.
Is
would I recommend it? Probably
any good?
Yeah. That's a great call out. Yeah, I forget about him all the time. But yeah, he can be really good. Obviously, the poison stuff doesn't work super well against
that's
most
actually
of Hydra.
That's why I was wondering, because obviously there's, you know, half the heads basically aren't affected by poison, but he still does good.
Yeah. He's still decent. Yeah. He's been a guaranteed champion 2 times now, so there's a decent chance that people might have him, and he could be a great budget option. You could have him built up and just throw him in that same build, and he's still going to be pretty good, you know. Not amazing. Like, obviously, he's not as good as Mithrala or Michinaki, obviously.
He's an epic,
but good budget option. Option. Yeah.
He's a squishy epic, but he's an epic, so I get it.
Yeah. A lot of them are squishy.
That's very, very true. Very, very true. Well, hey, look, I've taken up plenty of your time. I know you have dinner to get to, actually. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming on, talking us through this. And I haven't had a chance to address this, and nor have I had a chance to actually work through my own thought process on these things. So I really, really, respect your opinions, and I appreciate, being able to talk about this, because it definitely helps me as an individual, and I'm pretty sure it helps everybody else out there. Do you have anything special going on your channel, or in your social media life that you want to share with anybody?
No, Matt, it's terrible. I'll tell you what's actually been happening. We've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 the last few days, and I didn't do any videos this weekend.
Have you really? Interesting.
Yeah, I'm like, it's just too much fun, man.
So I got that game when it first came out, when it first came out in beta, and I still have it on Steam. Yeah. So it's one of those things I've been looking to do, because I know it's just about to be released, or maybe it just got released on PlayStation.
So it's out on PC, and I think it's out on PlayStation maybe the start of September.
Right. So I have a lot of friends that are very like, I do a weekly D&D stream type, or bi-weekly D&D stream. I do play a lot of Dungeons & Dragons. So I'm actually really excited, and I've been hankering to play for like the last month or so. So I know a lot of my friends are in it. So I'm really excited to hear that you've been playing that. I've been enjoying that. I'm a big fan of that game.
I'm a College of Swords bard. I'm going kicking ass.
Yeah,
I had a hat that looks very like the one you have, and a beard very like yours and my character for a while there.
You're playing me. Is he named Deadwood?
I'm playing Deadwood.
I feel like you should name him Deadwood.
I called him Baxter the Bard.
That's pretty good. I'm not angry at that at all. That's fantastic. That's so good to hear. All right. Well, hey, look, I just want to say thanks again for coming on. Everybody, make sure to go check out Nub's channel at Nub Raids. It's great. He puts up amazing content. He really does. He covers everything, and obviously he's just a fun guy to hang out and listen to. So that's always beneficial. But especially if you're trying to get more, better results on your Hydra teams, Nub is 100% the guy I would go to first. He's the guy I go to first. He's helped me with my team personally, but also sharing that advice with everybody else out there. So check him out. I'll have his stuff linked in the pinned comment description below. That's all we got. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you being on.
Great. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure as always.
As always. All right, guys. Thanks for checking in. Until next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.